In the name of God. Flavor is rebellion. The Culinary Codebreaker's Manifesto.
Renowned chef Elio was known for his bold culinary experiments, but his latest endeavor sought to engender a new way of experiencing food. His tasting menu was no ordinary meal, it was a puzzle, a gastronomic code waiting to be cracked. Each dish contained encrypted clues that led to a secret culinary society's ancient recipe vault. Diners had to decode flavors and textures, turning dinner into a thrilling mystery. A foam that cracked like sugar glass revealed a longitude coordinate, while a perfectly balanced broth whispered hints of forgotten techniques. The night promised excitement, but danger lurked in the kitchen's shadows. As Elio's guests indulged, murmurs of encomium filled the dimly lit dining hall. Critics marveled at his ability to weave history and innovation into each bite. His approach was radical, earning both praise and skepticism from the culinary world. Among the guests, however, was a rival chef determined to undermine him. Jealous of Elio's rising fame, the rival sought to discredit his work in front of the esteemed audience. No one suspected the sabotage that was about to unfold. The rival chef had managed to infiltrate Elio's kitchen, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. He targeted a dish featuring a rare, endemic ingredient, fermented black garlic from a single Korean farm. This key component carried the essence of the dish, its depth of umami irreplaceable. A small alteration was all it took. The rival swapped the garlic with a common substitute, hoping to ruin the experience. If the dish failed, Elio's credibility would be shattered. But Elio, ever resourceful, was prepared for such a challenge. As the dish was about to be served, Elio noticed something was off. His empirical instincts told him the flavors weren't as they should be. He took a moment to analyze the dish, his mind racing through potential solutions. With no time to spare, he made a controversial choice. He used a forbidden ingredient, MSG. This chemical, though frowned upon by traditionalists, had the power to enhance umami to an almost supernatural level. The decision was risky, but it was the only way to save the night. The first bite sent waves of surprise through the diners. Instead of disappointment, their faces lit up with unexpected delight. The umami depth was unlike anything they had tasted before, and critics began whispering their approval. The sabotage had failed. In fact, it had only enervated the rival chef's own reputation. His obsession with tradition over innovation was now exposed for all to see. Elio had not only saved his dish, he had turned the entire incident into a statement about progress in cooking. In the midst of the excitement, a respected food historian stood to speak. His encomium for Elio's ability to adapt and overcome was eloquent and passionate. He praised the chef's willingness to emulate old techniques while forging new paths in gastronomy. This balance of reverence and rebellion, the historian argued, was the essence of culinary evolution. Elio listened intently, humbled yet triumphant. The night had become more than a meal, it was a revolution. At the heart of Elio's philosophy was the belief that food should never be stagnant. Recipes were meant to evolve, not remain trapped in the past like museum relics. His approach, rooted in both empirical experimentation and deep respect for history, pushed boundaries. He knew that true mastery came not from blind adherence to tradition but from understanding when to break the rules. This realization had led him here, to this moment of vindication. He was ready for whatever came next. The time had come to unlock the ancient recipe vault. Diners gathered around as Elio entered the final code, his hands steady despite the tension in the air. As the lock clicked open, anticipation peaked. What secrets lay inside? But when the door swung open, revealing an empty space, silence fell over the room. There were no sacred recipes, no lost culinary blueprints. Just an empty vault, its hollowness a powerful metaphor. Elio took a deep breath and smiled. He understood now, the pursuit of flavor, like art, had no final destination. The vault was never meant to hold recipes, it symbolized the endless reinvention of taste itself. There would always be new techniques to discover, new ingredients to explore. Holding onto the past too tightly would only stifle growth. Elio turned to his guests, his voice firm as he enunciated his next words. Flavor is rebellion, he declared, his manifesto beginning to take shape. The phrase resonated through the room, igniting discussions among the assembled food critics, historians, and chefs. His words were not just a declaration but an invitation to challenge, to innovate, to push beyond what was deemed acceptable. Even his harshest critics now saw the brilliance in his philosophy. Elio had done more than serve a meal, he had started a movement. Later that night, he sat alone in his study, reflecting on the journey that had led him here. He thought of the rival chef, now humiliated by his own rigidity. He considered the diners who had walked away with new perspectives on what food could be. Above all, he pondered the power of a single idea to transform an entire industry. The world of gastronomy would never be the same. And Elio, now more than ever, was ready to lead the charge. The story of the evening spread like wildfire. Articles were written, debates ignited, and food enthusiasts everywhere dissected the night's events. Elio's use of MSG was both praised and condemned, but one thing was undeniable: his impact was lasting. His manifesto, once a simple thought, was now a movement that chefs worldwide sought to emulate. The vault may have been empty, but Elio had uncovered something far more valuable. He had discovered that the true secret to great cooking lay in daring to break the rules. Days later, Elio received an invitation to speak at a prestigious culinary conference. His words had reached not just food critics but scientists, philosophers, and artists alike. Even experts in entomology, intrigued by the role of insects in future gastronomy, wanted to hear his thoughts on sustainability. His ideas were no longer just about food, they had become a larger conversation about innovation itself. It was a surreal moment, but he knew he had only just begun. The world was listening, and he was ready to speak. As he took the stage, he thought of the journey ahead. There would be resistance, purists who clung to outdated ideals. But Elio knew that history favored those who dared to innovate. He smiled, his mind already crafting the next revolution in flavor. He took a deep breath, ready to enunciate his message to the world. Flavor, he said, is rebellion.
Like and subscribe if you would like.